Have you ever jumped into a match of Roblox doors, and especially within the new Floor 2 map, noticed something so absurdly strange that it honestly made you nervous and possibly even a bit uncomfortable? Well, congratulations! You've just experienced a cursed moment. These are cursed moments within Doors Floor 2. What was the weirdest moment you've experienced? Like and subscribe, or else you will get bad luck within the game. Starting with a bang, imagine taking a ride through the minecart as a part of the Seek chase, and while even finishing the run with no problems at all, something strange like this happens. Ayo, what? Seek ends up completely jump scaring the entity out of nowhere, as the player must have glitched back, probably due to lag or something. Either way, that jump scare would cause nightmares for days, especially for a newer player. But here's one that will make you feel nervous. Officially, over 109,000 players have finally been able to beat Floor 2, especially after 2 weeks since the update initially dropped. But 110,000 players were able to win the Down the Drain achievement after draining Seek in the final boss fight. If you really think about it, that means over 1,000 players ended up getting disconnected after beating the final boss. How does that even happen? You spend all the time getting to the end just for the game to crash on you on an instant. Though, that's not bad. In case you didn't know, the Mines is the only main floor within the game where players are not able to unlock doors due to the floor not containing any locked doors. But how did this player run across a locked door, especially right within door 112? This makes you wonder, what if you had a pair of lockpicks and used it on this door? I guess we'll never know. Here's one for you. I personally ran into this one during one of the Seek chases, and imagine Seek throwing so many tactics and obstacles into your way to the point where it's honestly unfair. Did you see that? Not only did a crouching section spawn instantly before the turning point, but it was on a blind turn as well. How can players possibly know where to go after something like that? But imagine going inside the library post Floor 2 update and actually being able to touch the figure and no clipping through them without any damage at all due to some weird glitches. Yeah, this happened to this player as figure is just walking in place trying to go upstairs through a blocked stairway. You can even see that the player is able to go through the entity as he doesn't do anything. That's so weird. But you know what's even worse than dying in a Seek chase due to going the wrong way or falling through a pit? This player was getting hurt by gloom bats due to having a light source, and since you aren't able to move during a cutscene, they ended up dying before the chase even happens. Why did gloom bats even spawn in the first place? That's kind of cursed. But what's worse? It is very strange to see the rush entity not only coming from the back, but it can now also come from the front of the map as well, further confusing players. But what if he pretends to be like Ambush for a bit and actually rebounds from that direction? Well, this is strange. Yeah, not going to lie, I'd probably die too. Rush can be seen rebounding a bit within the rooms as it caused pretty much everyone to lose due to no hiding places being available. Most people already know about festering meat, most likely being droppings from the figure entity, especially since these piles show up pretty much everywhere where the figure is nearby. But this is freaking cursed to see a player who lost and has their face into a pile of figure poop. Honestly, I'm going to need some holy water for my eyes after seeing this one. Yet more Rush antics. The entity almost always is supposed to give you a heads up with either the room rumbling or possibly even with lights breaking. But Rush wasn't really kind to these specific players. Why, dude? Is Rush trying to be slick when trying to catch these players? There was no indications of the entity spawning in whatsoever, as it led to a really quick game over. So not only is Rush trying to become Ambush, but he's just becoming plain unfair. Players already know that Room 150 is difficult in itself, especially while having to deal with up to 5 grumbles all at the same time. But the radar does help pinpoint us in which direction the anchors could be hiding. But unfortunately for Malik, their radar didn't really do anything at all to help the player to find necessary anchors. Are you serious? Without any beeping sounds, they would have to travel around the whole entire map in order to have a chance at finding the correct anchor. That is so cursed. But what happened within this next clip? You guys tell me. There was actually not much context behind this clip within the community, especially as I guess it sounds like Ambush getting an extended crucifixion or whatnot within a fake door. I've never really experienced anything like that before, especially on doors. This next one is shocking. You're already at door 200 and it's taken you 30 minutes minimum in order to get to this point. And while jumping around the final boss with Seek seeming normal, this ends up happening.
Oh my god, okay. Where am I?
Bro, my guy just got teleported into oblivion after getting flinged by the Seek hand or something. Honestly, really surprised he didn't game over right there. I guess you could consider it lucky, but he's also stuck there and got soft locked as well. This will cause some nightmares. We all know Rush's iconic scream as they run through the hallways of Roblox doors, but I'm not sure if this is a coincidence or not, especially as this player was able to encounter Rush screaming louder and louder as they got further into the mines, yet the entity never appears at all. It eventually despawns, which is more confusing. At this point, we all know how the Seek chase works within the minecart section. The entity always runs at a slightly lower speed compared to the players trying to escape, but not for this player. Bro, it's like Seek ended up strapping on some speed shoes and caught up wicked quick to the player, even though they had a freaking minecart equipped at the time. Honestly, this is crazy. But dealing with all those grumbles at Room 150 can be such an annoyance, but this next clip is a delight, especially as this player documented footage of a grumble being stuck within the floor of the nesting areas, causing some weird and cryptic sounds in the process. Even if the player touches the grumble's tentacles, they are not able to cause any damage as the tentacles don't have damage-causing properties encoded. But regardless, it's a bit strange. But you really want to know the most cursed moment we've seen within the update? We have seen so many of these glitched bookshelves more and more, especially after floor 2 dropped, but why was a player able to find a bookshelf glitch through the wall that has 3 number 6s all right next to each other? But what's your most cursed moment? Like and subscribe and take care.